Good morning, everyone. Good to see everybody. Good to be back again. And I'm so glad you had an opportunity to have a meditation with my friend Ayasanta Chita. And she'll be coming through again, I think in the later fall. So we'll have her in person. So as we start today, we're continuing with the fundamentals of meditation, referring to two texts. One text is Pema Chodron's How to Meditate, and the other text is Thrangu Rinpoche's Tranquility and Insight. And today I'll be speaking from Thrangu Rinpoche's Tranquility and Insight. So just to catch everyone up again, we started with the view. The view of meditation is liberation, and liberation for oneself and all sentient beings from samsara and the sufferings of samsara. And in that liberation, one has the growing capacity as a bodhisattva and then as a Buddha to benefit sentient beings with greater and greater efficacy and skills. We begin with cultivating favorable circumstances. For instance, I'm in a beautiful, quiet room this morning. Then we set our posture. As in the earlier class, we were looking at the specifics of posture and knowing that there are several different systems that have specific postures with their own nuances. And in this system with Thrangu Rinpoche and Venerable Pema, we're using Virachana's 7-point posture. Then we begin the process of settling the mind, noticing our inner weather, noticing how restless, how troubled, how agitated, how sleepy, how drowsy, essentially what the conditions of this particular day are presenting, not in any way judging, just noticing. And then making sure that we're embracing a sense of unconditional friendliness, so that when we encounter our minds, becoming more and more familiar with our minds, it's not with harshness, not with strictness, not shaming or blaming, but just with that loving kindness that we saw with the little baby Aurelio sitting on his mom's lap. That's how kind we're being to ourselves in terms of how we're holding ourselves as we then cultivate the instructions and discipline in a very clear and thorough way. And between having the view and having clear instructions, then our meditation is ensuring progression in the direction that we wish to go, not taking side trips here and there, but really progressing in the clarity that the Dharma brings. So the next section in Thrangu Rinpoche's book is on objects of meditation. And I was thinking how, when we're starting meditation, or, maybe even the first many years of meditation, we have a fairly limited view of what meditation is. And so when he introduced objects of meditation, he did it in I'm saying he, but it's, he's commenting on a text by Jamgon Khantrul, one of the greats. He presented it not on objects in the sense of you start with something neutral like a stone, then you progress to a statue, then you progress to your breath. And it's often presented that way because it's talking about more and more ephemeral objects of meditation, which allows your mind to become more and more pliable and subtle. Rather, he presents it as all-pervasive pacification of behavior, objects of the learned, and purification of the kleshas. So this is a really beautiful presentation, because often we're just talking about the all-pervasive, and the all-pervasive includes all objects, including the ones I mentioned earlier. And it's called all-pervasive because it applies to any and all phenomena with or without analysis, a single object or a multiplicity of objects. So, for instance, when I was mentioning, when we're first teaching meditation, it's a white stone. And it's just a simple white stone, and it's very, very neutral. It's meant to be very neutral. It's meant to be not valuable at all, so that your mind doesn't get excited about, all the qualities of that white stone. It's just a white stone. So that's a very simple object or a phenomena. And with or without analysis would be bringing in vipassana into it. So we could just say the simple white stone, or we could say the impermanence of the white stone, bringing some analysis to it. Or in the case of later meditation, you might gaze out at a whole landscape and not pick out any single object of meditation, but you would let your eyes soften and you would just have the visual consciousness settle and have all of the phenomena, but nothing individually, be the object of meditation. So this first category incorporates many, many methods. And what I like about this presentation is then he takes us through essentially the inner process we go through as we're coming to have skilled, stable mind. So the pacification of behavior addresses what our emotional proclivity is, and habits of mind and habits of mental and physical suffering. And he presents this as of two types. Some of our mental and physical suffering has to do with karma, and the word karma means action. So we carry the results of all of our previous deeds, and it might be in a physical illness, or it might be like my voice is hoarse. So that's a karma, relative to the speech. That's the fruition of karma relative to the speech. And probably more important for our purposes, we know we have physical aspects that we can allow our mind to settle and lose focus on those physical aspects. But even more interesting is the habits of mind or mental habituation. And karma, meaning action, means that there is a thought arising in your mind, a thought that has a volitional aspect to it. And as that becomes an intention, and then that intention moves towards the object, and I'm going to grasp the object, then that karma is complete. I have grasped something. But when it's resting just at the idea stage, it's habits of thinking. And so, we can relate this today to neural pathways. We have many scientific explanations of habits of thinking. But also, there is in Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan medical systems a sense that we're each born with a dominance, let's say, of one of the emotional, strong, sometimes we say affliction, sometimes we say poison. So not only do we have all of them with probably one being slightly more dominant, but that dominant quality puts you in a particular Buddha family. So there are gifts and insights and wisdoms in that Buddha family, as well as a particularly dominant, strong emotion. So it's a really beautiful system of understanding psychology, and working with people of many different psychologies, how we hear things, how we understand things, and what our primary reaction is. Now, many of you may not have thought about reincarnation and carrying habits and karma from previous lives, but we can also think about it as our human family. So if you were born into a very raging family, for instance, people who were yelling and screaming at each other a lot, and or expressing emotions loudly, you would have formed habits as a child. You might have incorporated that culture as a child in terms of what is considered good and healthy and what is not considered good and healthy. On the other hand, if you were born into a family that's conflict averse, you would be carrying as adult ways of expressing emotions and having your mind influenced by, let's say, emotion avoidance. So we're always carrying, whether it's past lives, certainly we've accumulated habits in this life. So when we talk about these as objects of meditation, we're talking about observing in ourselves, not only in our daily life, but in our emotional weather, and the choices we have to increase these behaviors or decrease these behaviors. So for meditation, that would mean, and this is again presented very traditionally, if you have a lot of desire and attachment, you would meditate on the ugliness of that attachment and impermanence. So you might hear a Zen expression as the body being a sack of poop, this meat sack, and that's a way of, if we're attached to youth, or if we're attached to our own beauty, or I always go back to my own attachments. If you're attached to chocolate, what does chocolate become after you chew it? Why are we so attached to like the first 1 or 2 moments of taste, and that then increases an addictive state to sugar, for instance? The other traditional meditation is a meditation on impermanence. So if we think of meditation as only following the breath, then we're missing, a huge range of meditation. So you might take a day or a month to meditate on impermanence. How is our body changing? how is the world around us changing? If we're attached to, again, direct from the moment. If I had been attached to Liberation House and then seeing it become impermanent, I can do a whole meditation on how did I get attached to a place as a home and then associate that home with all of the other things like comfort, security, and then totally forgetting that it was totally impermanent. And due to mold, all of a sudden, that particular place is not livable at the moment. So we look at what are the forces in our personality structure and really look at, all right, am I increasing the force of that or decreasing the force of that? If our dominant framework of mind is hatred or anger, irritation, then we would meditate on loving kindness and compassion. And that is certainly a favorite that we do here all the time, emphasizing how meditations on loving kindness and compassion flow into bodhicitta and flow into totally rewiring how we think and how we see other people. If we have a propensity towards jealousy, then we meditate on the fourth immeasurable, rejoicing in others' accomplishments, rejoicing in others' joys. We've had a lot of successful babies being born, so in our Sangha, there's been a lot of rejoicing and seeing the pictures of these wonderful babies. Then if we have pride in the sense of either feeling superior or feeling less than, the recommendation is to meditate on the elements. Our body is composed of the same elements, the same cell structure, the same components completely. So we're neither better than nor less than. And again, impermanence, one could meditate, for any of the difficulties in our emotional structure or mental patterns. And then the fifth, we talk about 5 emotions in the Tibetan system, or 5 primary afflictive emotions. The fifth is ignorance. And ignorance is of 2 kinds. There's the ever-present ignorance. It's like looking through sunglasses. And if you're looking through sunglasses, everything you see is a slightly different color. So we have this co-arising ignorance. We have both ignorance and wisdom co-arising in each and every life. And that pervasive ignorance pervades all of the negative emotions that we have, but it pervades our perceptions because it is the very subtle assumption before we get to I like chocolate, I like my home. Before it's at that level of expression, there is an assumption of an I existing. So it's what we carry with us until we completely remove all of the ignorance. And then there is the ordinary ignorance, and that would be not being able to determine what is beneficial and not beneficial, not being able to determine what is harmful and increasing our destructive patterns or decreasing our destructive patterns. It would be not understanding the nature of the poisons, and not having heard the Dharma so that we can start to understand what will decrease the strength of the poisonous emotions. And then almost as an afterthought, if there are too many thoughts, we always go back to meditating on the breath. So that is purification of behavior. Then we have objects of the learned. So now we're switching from, let's say, the stormy weather to what is the nature of our body, mind, and what will start to lead us into wisdom of understanding the nature of mind, because we, in the earlier objects of meditation, have pacified the stormy inner weather. So objects of the learned actually just take deeper what we defined that obvious self to be, not the hidden I that defines everything, but if we would say, I have a body, I have emotions, I have the capacity to discriminate, to sort out different kinds of thoughts, I have feelings, and I have the perception of all my different senses, and I have thoughts about everything, and I can consider those thoughts. We call those the 5 aggregates or the 5 skandhas. And so when we're starting to look to see, well, where does this fairly obvious belief in an unchanging, independent self arise from? First, we start with, well, who do we think we are? And then we look at the 12 links of interdependent origination to see how do we keep increasing behaviors and how do we decrease behaviors. So how do all these form and mental functions combine to increase or decrease the afflictive states? And then finally, the purification of the kleshas. And I'm not sure the title matches the practice, but here we start to look at that hidden I. But we start out with starting to see the difference between a peaceful, settled mind when shamatha is present, when we can be concentrated, and the opposite of that. What is our mind like when it's not? And then with Vipassana, we go deeply into what is the cause of samsara itself and what is the cause of nirvana. And that's where we approach the emptiness of even that hidden and more subtle assumption of a independent, non-changing presence that we then name as an I and behave and protect and function, either increasing afflictive emotions or decreasing afflictive emotions. So I think this is an excellent presentation coming from the text, because it starts to give you a range of variations of meditation that address concerns as they arise and subtly move forward towards liberation. And again, it's hard for us, I think, when we start talking about the assumption of a self and the presence of an unchanging, independent I-ness, because we don't know how we could possibly function without that. But if you think of who are the lovely people in your family, and who are the lovely people in your neighborhood, and who are the people that you admire, at first you might say, well, these are the people that think of others first, right? So they're not always thinking of what's in it for me. They're thinking of, oh, honey, what can I do for you today? I'm still thinking of Aurelio, with, right in his mom's arms, oh, honey, what do you need in this moment? And then if we took that a step further, what if our minds were so free that with ease, love, and wisdom, that's all you were thinking? So there's no quality of martyrdom in any kind of way. You're freed into the wisdom of seeing the nature of reality. And in the nature of reality is this blossoming of the full qualities of the wisdom of a Buddha and the fullness of the activities of the Buddha's capacity to help. Okay, so let's sit and think about this for a few minutes, just sort of take in. Meditation is so much bigger than we initially think it is. And to me, it's wonderfully exciting. It's like we've got the full hospital. Whatever's going on with our mental suffering, there are all of these departments waiting for us to just come in and get the appropriate instruction for meditation. As we live a long life, getting clearer and clearer about our blossoming wisdom. Okay, let's sit for about 10 minutes. Okay. I'm going to dedicate and then we'll close the live group. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.